welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do a Dracula vlog. So when you think of someone who is an English, I just realized I don't have my earrings on and I feel naked now. But anyways, when you think of an English major, you think someone well-versed in classics, someone who has read the key needs. And you would be correct, except for the fact that I've never read Dracula. And alas, this video concept was born. I had, I think, two really big vampire classics on my classics TBR and one Joe Hill book that I really wanted to read, so I just added it on. I have read Frankenstein. I have read I have read Wuthering Heights. I've read Jane Eyre. I've read, you know, these gothic classics. Never read Dracula. I know who Dracula is. I know what a vampire is. Obviously, I went through a very intense Twilight phase, but I really wanted to dive into Bram Stoker's original novel. So this is the first book I read in the vlog. And Dracula begins with this man named Jonathan Harker who visits, he's like a young solicitor and he has this call in Transylvania that he has to go to because someone is interested in buying a property in London. And the man who wants to buy this property in England is Dracula, Count Dracula himself. And obviously, I don't think it's a spoiler, but when Harker's in Transylvania, he doesn't know he's a vampire. And then stuff transcends into London and England and the story takes off from there. Then I obviously was like, Dracula is really homoerotic. Like vampires give kind of this very intense erotic vibes. Harker and Dracula were like a little, so I was like, let me get the one that I think is the most homoerotic, you know? And that's Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu.
Are you happy to be in Paris?
Oui. And this specific edition I bought because it is forwarded and edited by Carmen Maria Machado. And I really, really like Carmen Maria Machado. I really enjoy her nonfiction works and everything that she has to say about sapphic literature and just sapphic relationships and pop culture relationships in general. And so obviously I was like, if I'm reading Carmilla, which is this look at a sort of sapphic relationship between this woman named Carmilla and another girl named Laura, I have to hear it from the queen herself. Basically, Carmilla is a reimagining that Le Fanu did of transcripts that he found in a doctor's office about this young woman who meets this woman named Carmilla and is also describing these bizarre symptoms that she's experiencing. And over time, through analysis and different literatures and stuff like that, the sapphicness of Laura potentially discovering her sexuality is more emphasized over time. But this book actually came out or was written a quarter of a century before Dracula. So that's another reason why I wanted to read this, because technically I think this would be considered the first vampire novel. If we think about names given to Dracula or vampires even in the media itself, in pop culture, films rather than literature, the name Nosferatu might come up. And that's why I read Joe Hill's Nosferatu. This is obviously much more dense than the other books, and you can tell my apprehension of this as we go into the vlog. But Nosferatu basically follows a character named Vic McQueen, and she has a knack for finding missing things. She eventually discovers that children are missing, and these children are taken away to Christmas Land by a man named Charlie Manx. And Charlie Manx takes them to Christmas Land in his Rolls Royce. Oh my God, why can't I pronounce these words? In his Rolls Royce, that is, I don't know how to say the word in English, immaculate, with a license plate, basically, that says Nosferatu. So let's go into Kelsey 3 weeks ago, and we'll meet back at the end of the vlog. Hello, time for an update on Dracula. And what is this? Sorry, I just came back from the gym and I'm always a mess. I am now a little bit past the 50-page mark, about page 58. And why did nobody tell me that this was epistolary? I love epistolary books. So much. And when we first got into this and we were in Jonathan Harker's part and he's recounting these events in a journal, that's my favorite form of like classic giving of information. I love that. I think it's such an effective way to tell a main character's point of view, even though like when we're reading books of more modern age, they are in like an omnipresent type of narrative. And so we know the character's thoughts and we know what they're thinking. But I just prefer this style of storytelling where we're hearing it directly from the main character and they're writing it like And then I saw him crawl down the wall, and I don't know what he's doing, and his canines were looking at me. And I love that. This is really interesting to me because obviously when people read this story for the first time, they had no concept of Dracula, no concept of vampires or like what Dracula could be, right? So I could see this, like already I think it's really creepy. Like there's a scene where Jonathan is describing how he's like casually like looking out the window at night and like a creature comes out of Count Dracula's window and is like crawling down the castle at such an alarming speed. And like we know that the reason the Count is doing this is because he's a vampire and he has these like superhuman capabilities. But Harker's like, the fuck is happening? He wants to leave, obviously, but Dracula is suspiciously doing things that make Harker believe he's going to stay there. And that's his part right now. And then we're going to be moving into Mina's section, who is the fiance or presumed to be fiance of Harker and what's happening after the events that happened with Harker. So I'm really liking how the story is being told. I wasn't sure if I was going to vibe with the writing. Classics are often hit and misses for me, especially classics of this time, but I think I might really enjoy this. And if I do, I think I'm going to reread Frankenstein. I know they're not the same thing, but I didn't enjoy Frankenstein the first time I read it, and I think it's because I just listened to it on audio and didn't like really pay attention to the words because I was reading for school and I just wanted to like speed through it. But I think if I do end up really enjoying it, I might return to it, revisit it, and see if I like it, because I'm also like more mature now and I feel like I can understand the themes of these books a lot better. So today I want to at least get to page 200 and then finish this off tomorrow. Start Carmilla, which is believed to be the first vampire book. And I bought this copy because it's edited by Carmen Maria Machado, and I think she's going to provide such an interesting like commentary in the beginning of Carmilla and like really add context, which is why I'm reading it after Dracula. Even though arguably Carmilla came first as the first vampire novel, Dracula is the reason I'm basing this whole vlog behind. And then the reason I want both of these done in 3 days, because on Thursday I leave for New York and I would really like to have Nosferatu for that trip only and not carry like more books, because I'm going to be buying books when I'm there. So I would really like to, even if I don't get really far into Nosferatu, that I have it read. Such is the situation. I also have to edit a video to go up before I leave for New York. But we'll handle this when we handle this. One thing they don't explain to you about book 2 is that your whole entire day goes by and now it's 11:30 at night and you want to have Dracula finished when you are on page 131 out of 344. Like, I love filming. I love reading books, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be making videos. And I love editing. Exporting and uploading a video has to be the bane of my existence. It takes so much time and I have to be on top of it. I have to constantly be observing, because if something goes wrong, I need to refix something, re-export, it's a mess. So it's now 11:30. Thankfully I go to bed pretty late, even though I shouldn't. I'm an adult, blah blah blah. So I will be trying to get a chunk of this read, hopefully finishing this tomorrow, and hopefully starting and finishing Carmilla tomorrow. Can I do it while packing for my trip and getting everything ready? Because obviously I left that to the last minute and I'm not going to do it now at 11:30. I'm just going to do it tomorrow in the day. So we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. Hello. So I just finished packing my stuff. I'm leaving for New York in 6 hours. I have to be at the airport in 5 hours. I know I'm not getting sleep tonight. I don't usually fall asleep until like 1 in the morning. So definitely not getting sleep tonight, but thankfully my boyfriend is driving me to the airport. While doing all these chores today, I did manage to finish Dracula. I didn't read this as fast as I wanted to. I wanted to have Carmilla done by today, which was my goal, but I did end up really enjoying Dracula despite it taking me a bit longer than I initially wanted. This is probably one of the better classics I've read in a while. Firstly, I think I mentioned this, but I absolutely love the epistolary format in the book. I think it adds this like oral storytelling element despite it being in like written form, even though I did listen to it on audio, but I think the epistolary format really helps with that. I think Stoker did a really excellent job as well at developing all of his characters. I really cared for most of them, especially Jonathan and Mina, and I was really interested in seeing how the story and how their characters were going to develop over time. And I was reading a couple of reviews to see like what are people's thoughts of Dracula over the years, and I saw that A lot of people wrote that they wish they lived in a world where they didn't necessarily know who Dracula was or what the spoiler of the book is, which is that Dracula is a vampire. Sorry to spoil you. But I actually enjoyed the fact that I knew more of the characters because it made it feel like I was reading through a historical document. And paired with that epistolary format, it made it feel like it was a real account, like a primary source of the event of Dracula. So it honestly made it feel more real to me. And that just added this sense of spookiness to the book that I really appreciated. So like I said, I really enjoyed this. I give it 4 stars. And now, because I am trying to make myself sleepy, but I also don't know how long I'm going to be staying up, I will be reading Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I don't really know what Carmilla is about, but I've heard that Carmilla is I heard that Carmilla is the first vampire novel and Dracula came after this, but Dracula is obviously the more well-known version. I don't think I'll finish it. And we'll see where it goes, but I'll probably be reading this tomorrow when I'm in New York as well. Hello, I look exhausted, and that's because I just landed from New York last night at 11 p.m. I'm so tired. My body is aching. My nose is blocked from the humidity and the smells of New York. And I woke up to work today and we lost power in the middle of a meeting. So what else can I do but finish Carmilla, which I started Wednesday night, have not finished, just because I didn't read at all when we were in New York, which is fine. I was enjoying life, but we have some major catching up to do. And because I lost power, this is the perfect time. So I was in the middle of the book, about 60 pages in, which is roughly halfway, I would say. And I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoyed Carmen Maria Machado's introduction to the book because she's talking about how there is some sapphic representation. And as you're reading through the book, you realize that Laura has this intense fascination with Carmilla. I think with time, we understand that Laura is kind of dealing with vampiric obsession, but at the same time, her love for Carmilla, her obsession for Carmilla is very sapphic focused. Like, she's focusing a lot on the way Carmilla looks and speaks and the intense feelings that she has for Carmilla. So I think this is really interesting, and I'm excited to finish the book and come talk about these discussions that are kind of being had. I don't know what the intention of Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu was, because Carmen Maria Machado talks about how he found these letters and rewrote this story based on what he read in the letters. So this love that our main character has for this mysterious woman is real and was represented in these letters, and the girl in the letters is writing to her doctor and explaining how she's obsessed with this woman. So was it really vampiric obsession? Was it just an example of sapphic love in a time where it wasn't really understood, where it wasn't really done, so to say? I'm excited to finish this. I have nothing to do right now. Can't even watch any YouTube channels. Can't do anything. My Wi-Fi's down. So we're just gonna read this and be together. Hello. So I haven't updated in quite a few days, and honestly, it's because I've been so tired. I don't know if I want to make this a really long clip.
Today. Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
Because I obviously have a lot to update you on. I finished Carmilla. I'm quite a way into Nosferatu. I got the next Brandon Sanderson box. I have books from New York, and I'm not sure how to do this. I don't know what would be the most interesting thing. So we'll go with updating you on the books I'm read/currently reading right now. So as for Carmilla, I'm settling on a 3 stars overall because I have some conflicting thoughts with the book. I know when we last spoke, I was really enjoying it, but through looking at reviews and looking at discussions about the book, I really was able to settle on a more midway type of rating. So overall, I think Carmen Maria Machado specifically made the writing in this book easily accessible for people who aren't that comfortable with classics, and made Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu's storytelling less daunting for people uncomfortable with classics. Our main character and voice, Laura, had feelings throughout the novel that were very easy to understand and clearly advocated the overall message around the novel. I loved Carmen Maria Machado's introduction to the novel and her footnotes throughout. It made it very easy to understand those aspects of the time and the context of the underlying messages that Le Fanu had, while sprinkling it in a funny way throughout the book that made the reading experience more enjoyable for me. And while I really enjoyed Carmilla and Laura's friendship, this is where my conflicting thoughts kind of come in. I knew right away what was going on overall. I'm not sure if this is still considered a twist hundreds of years later. On the one hand, I do see how this novel can be praised for its portrayal of a sapphic relationship and how the underlying kind of message in the novel is really focusing on a woman blossoming and learning and understanding her feelings for Carmilla. Carmilla captivates both readers and Laura in the book, so it's not hard to see the underlying sapphic tones. However, I do need to kind of spoil the ending, so if you're not interested, I would just zoom past this a little bit. But when the book is finished and Carmilla is beheaded, we sort of need to question Le Fanu's intention with the book, because to me it feels more like Le Fanu is villainizing Carmilla and Laura's sapphic relationship over celebrating what they had. The novel does end with Laura looking back fondly on Carmilla. She doesn't necessarily think of Carmilla as this creature, this scary creature. So I still think there is this underlying sapphic message, but still a little bit villainized. So that's why I ended up giving it 3 stars. I'm really in the middle about this because I did enjoy it, but I did have some issues with that. Now let's talk about Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This is the story that follows two kind of primary underlying characters. The book opens with this character named Vic, and Vic is also nicknamed the Brat. I'm sure that this will come in more throughout the novel. I forgot to say where I'm at, but I am at page 160. So I have gotten a way through the book, not enough to like say I'm like halfway or whatever, maybe a third. Vic has this power, and we see that other children have somewhat of these powers as well, but Vic has this power to find things that are lost or missing, and this comes into play with this character named Charles Manx. Charles Manx is the villain of the novel, the vampiric person, if you could say. And what Charles Manx does is he kind of kidnaps children and bring them to Christmas land. He recruits people who are more susceptible to like maybe a cult-like leader or following someone who is going to give them something that they want. And he paints it in a way of saving these children from abusive homes. Obviously, we as readers understand that he is sort of using this as an excuse, and these children who are coming from these rougher homes are then just taken into a more abusive environment. And I'm assuming Charles Manx is like sucking energy from them, and he seems to be more of an energy vampire, but he definitely has like vampiric leanings. At the part I'm at now, Vic just interacted with one of the children that is in Christmas land. Another part I forgot to mention is that Vic has this like bike that she's able to like open up a bridge, and this bridge takes her to whatever's missing. She's looking for this missing child and stumbles upon a more vicious creature that is in the shape of a child but is working for Charles Manx. So far, so good. I do find Joe Hill's writing to be very reminiscent of his father Stephen King's writing, so it's not something that I'm uncomfortable with reading, but I do think that Stephen King and Joe Hill have a way of meandering and pushing forth descriptions that can be a bit overwhelming to read sometimes. So I just wanted to point that out there, that Joe Hill is very similar to Stephen King. So if Stephen King is not your jam, I don't know if Joe Hill would be. I'm really enjoying the audiobook. I have some qualms with the way that the narrator portrays Vic's more insufferable actions, because it kind of makes her sound like a demon, and I don't think that's the intention, because if I were reading this physically, I don't think I would be reading her voice in such a way. At this point, this clip is 8 minutes long, so I don't know if I want to add more stuff. I think I'm just going to get back into Nosferatu, and then either tomorrow or later tonight, I will do the book haul for New York, and I'll probably do the unboxing of the Brandon Sanderson final book of the year of Brandon Sanderson, which is crazy that we've gotten this far. So update you later. I'm here, and it's finally time to do my New York book haul. So I'm just gonna get right into it. The first place we went to was the Strand, which I was so excited to go to. I didn't realize that the Strand was also a used bookstore, so that was a lot of fun because I found a book that I've been keeping my eye out for, very heavily discounted, so I was super excited. This is If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga. In post-Arab Spring Cairo, two unnamed characters meet and fall in love. She is a nostalgic daughter of Egyptian immigrants returning to a country she's never been to before. He was a photographer of the revolution who is now unemployed and living in a rooftop shack. As their alternating perspectives unfold in blocks of taut poetic prose, their desire for each other, for the selves they strive to become through the other, takes a violent turn. A dark romance exposing the fraughts, fissures in American identity politics when exported overseas. If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English is a lush post-colonial novel for the 21st century. So really excited to read this. Then next, I believe we went to Sweet Pickle Books, which was another really cute used bookstore, and I got Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. So Michelle Zauner is from the indie rock band Japanese Breakfast, and when she was in her mid-20s working as a waitress and struggling to launch her music career in Philadelphia, she got a call that her mother was ill. She put her life on hold and flew home to Eugene, Oregon to be with her mother through the final excruciating months of her battle with cancer. I've heard such good things about this book, so I'm very excited to dive in. I'll probably listen to this on audio as well, and here is the little bookmark that they give us. Then after that, I believe we went to a bookstore in Chelsea Market, and I got this really interesting cover of The Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I never had a chance to read this book in high school. I know relatively what it's about, but I never got to read it in high school. We were never like forced to. Hossman Books is where I got this book. So Lord of the Flies is about a group of very ordinary small boys marooned on a coral island. It's been labeled a parable, an allegory, a myth, a morality tale, a parody, a political treatise, and even a vision of an apocalypse. But above all, it has earned its place as one of the indisputable classics of the 20th century. Sounds good, and I've always wanted to read it, and I really, really like this cover. It like really called out to me. After that, we went to Brooklyn and we visited this place called Book Thug, and it was a bunch of used books, and I found some really, really, really interesting used books. This is the second My Brilliant Friend that I bought in a used bookstore in New York. I know this is really embarrassing. Last year I got the like TV show cover, and I feel like personally it wasn't motivating me to read it. And then I saw the original cover at this used bookstore, and it called to me, and I knew I've been looking for these covers. They're so expensive, and it was for a great price, so I just decided to buy it, and hopefully this will motivate me to pick it up, because I did read like the first 2 pages about it, and I really, really, really loved what I read, and I really like Elena Ferrante's writing. This is a story that takes place in Italy. It's the story of Elena and Lila, and it begins in 1950s in a poor but vibrant neighborhood in the outskirts of Naples. Growing up on the tough streets, the 2 girls learn to rely on each other ahead of anyone or anything else, as their friendship, beautifully and meticulously rendered, becomes a not always perfect shelter from hardship. Ferrante has created a more memorable portrait of 2 women, but My Brilliant Friend is also the story of a nation. Through the lives of Elena and Lila, Ferrante gives her readers the story of a neighborhood, a city, a country undergoing momentous change. So, down to read it. And then I found 2 books from one of my favorite classic sci-fi writers. I love John Wyndham. I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've read from him so far. So this is Chalky. Like, look at this cover. I really like it. It is not terribly unusual for a boy to have an imaginary friend, but Matthew's parents have agreed that his, nicknamed Chalky, is anything but ordinary. Why? Chalky demands to know, are there 24 hours in a day? Why are there 2 sexes? Why can't Matthew solve his math homework using the logical system like a binary code? When the question Chalky asks become too advanced and frankly too odd for teachers to answer, Matthew's parents start to wonder if Chalky might be something far stranger than a figment of their son's imagination. I don't know, seems super interesting. And then I also got The Kraken Wakes, also because I love this cover. This takes place in Britain in 1953. It begins with red dots appearing across the sky and crashing into the ocean's depths. At first, many people believe that these aliens are interested only in what's down below, but when the polar ice caps begin to melt, it becomes clear that these beings have no intention of sharing the earth and that humankind might just be on the brink of extinction. So this is what is described as an early example of climate fiction. So that's so cool. I'm so excited to read this. And then finally in Brooklyn, we went to Books Are Magic, and I got by The Hidden Culture, History, and Science of Bisexuality. As a bisexual, I feel like I do not read enough about our culture. And I need to envelop myself more in like nonfiction about bisexuality and the strides that we have overcome over the years. So significant strides have been made in the movement for LGBTQ plus rights, visibility, and empowerment. But the conversation is far from over. For psychological scientist and bestselling author Dr. Julia Shaw, the dearth of information on bisexuality was crushing. So she dug deep and found a colorful and fascinating world that she couldn't help but bring out from the shadows. Shaw explores all that we know about the world's largest sexual minority on a personal journey that starts with her own openly bisexual identity and celebrates the resilience and beautiful diversity of the bi community. Preach it, queen. I'm excited to read all of these books. I did spend quite a bit on books and we're not going to talk about it, okay? Next thing is that we are going to open the last book from the Year of Brandon Sanderson box. So let's go. Let's do it. I already have seen what this book looks like, but like I obviously don't know how beautiful it is in person. So as usual, we have the Brandon Sanderson spoiler card. Then our Cosmere pin. This is Kaladin, and I feel like I already got Kaladin, so I'm gonna be really disappointed. False alarm, I didn't get Kaladin yet, so this is the pin. Can you guys see it properly? This is the pin. It's really cute. Next, we have the sticker. This is the Sunlit Man, and that's the name of the book, so I'm assuming this is a character in the story. And then we have the gorgeous bookmark. Oh, it's completely upside down. And this is also from this book. Let's pull out the actual book. Wow, this is really beautiful. I don't know anything about what the Sunlit Man is about, and quite frankly, I don't care because I'm going to read it anyway. So, and then lastly, I just want to give an update of where I am in Nosferatu. So I am currently on page 372, and where we are now in the novel, Vic McQueen is a lot older. She's an adult. She has her child, and what happened between her and Charles Banks when she was younger, she thinks of it as like this false tale that he had kidnapped her and he's not a vampire. Like, it was a traumatic moment that she's turned into this kind of science fiction fantasy idea in her brain to kind of cope with it. However, we do learn that Charles Manx comes back and he ends up stealing her son. So now she's kind of conflicted with this understanding that everything she experienced when she was younger is real. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, obviously, because I am more than halfway through the book. I am enjoying it. I do think that there's some elements of this book that are quite frankly very jarring to read from, and I don't think that's to be not expected from like a Stephen King, Joe Hill type of book. I just think that there's one specific character in here that is used by Charles Manx purposely because he has a more childlike ideology of the world. He's being used in this horrible way by Charles Manx. The way that character behaves in the book and the way he talks about certain scenarios, like I get that he's supposed to be fucked up, but it's very jarring. And the way he describes SAing specific people, it's a lot. It's a lot for me. I'm not even sure if I'm enjoying it that much, like the overall plot. Like I don't really care what happens. So anyways, I'm gonna see how I feel about this because I'm only like halfway. And we'll see what happens. Hello, how are we doing? Welcome back. It's definitely time, finally. I've been pushing off filming the ending of this vlog and the beginning and the intro, as you saw, for weeks now because I just didn't want to talk about Nosferatu and my final thoughts on the book, because this book definitely put me in one of the most wildest reading slumps I've ever been in. Let's just get into this review so we can end this vlog. But I enjoyed some parts of this and other parts I really did not. I think the start of the book is really interesting and probably, I would argue, the strongest part of the novel. I really enjoyed learning about Vic as a main character and her powers. And I even really enjoyed the book when it jarringly jumped to Vic 20 years later with a child, because I was really interested in her motivations as a mother. And I really enjoyed reading from the perspectives of her son and of her ex-boyfriend, because side note, both of them are really sweet and enjoyable characters to read from, but also in dynamic with Vic. Charles Manx as a villain was interesting as well, and I really did enjoy his motivations about finding Vic again and like wanting to take her down, seeking out revenge. And the ending of the book was actually really engaging upon that relationship, and I really liked how the final chapter closed the novel overall. However, I found the pacing in this book to be astronomically horrible and so extremely difficult to keep my attention. I never want to listen to this book, which is like crazy for me, and it's simply because the middle portion of the book is so long-winded and honestly, quite frankly, I'm sorry to everybody who likes this book, boring. I think if the book was shorter, it could have had a much quicker pace and the stakes of Vic's life would have felt a lot higher. So yeah, I gave this 3 stars. Enjoy the beginning, enjoy the end. The middle portion led me onto a downward spiral of reading slump, life slump, video slump, editing slump, everything. This video was supposed to come out in October on Halloween. It is now November 9th when I'm filming this, me and you together right now, November 9th. So sorry, Joe Hill, but not one of your successful books I read. So to just summarize everything I've read for the vlog so far, it kind of went downhill, which is a little sad. So basically we had Dracula by Bram Stoker, which I really enjoyed, definitely the highlight of this vlog, with a 4 stars. Carmilla with that 3-star rating, and then Nosferatu again with that 3-star rating. So Nosferatu didn't make me hate vampires any less. In fact, I feel like I could get into a vampire era at any time. I love vampires. I think the concept of vampires is so interesting. I think the whole eroticism that comes with vampires, or eroticism in general that comes from vampires, to be so fascinating. They really add a like spicy element into books, and I love it. I love it in general. Maybe this one wasn't the most successful, but overall I had a really good time reading these books. And if you've read any of them, please let me know down below what you thought about them. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. And because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel. It makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye!